right? Like I don't know if this is just a change like since Captain America: Brave New World happened, but I've definitely been noticing it since then that like they've really been trying to market this movie as basically like the A24 of like studio superhero movies, right? Of it having like much more of a quote unquote real cinema vibe to it, feeling like kind of like an indie movie, like a Florence Pugh, who herself very interesting as someone who has been a big star of like more like art film or like you know kind of award the kind of the kind of movies that get considered for awards. I think she was up for like best actress or a supporting actress one year at the Oscars. I can't remember like what it was for. But she's in a lot of like indie movies and movies that do get a lot of talk beyond just being like really successful blockbusters. And she's also in big blockbusters like like she's in the Marvel movies. She's was you know Black Widow's sister, Natasha's sister in Black Widow, and she's I think pretty much the star of this new Thunderbolts movie. And like they're really, I think she was talking about it as it feels like an indie A24 assassin movie, but with Marvel superheroes. And definitely, I feel like I get kind of a bit of like a bit of both when I watch the trailers. Like some of it does feel like, oh yeah, that does seem a bit different. And they've also, talked a lot about how they are using like a lot of practical effects, like even like for their explosions and stuff. Whereas usually Marvel movies would be more, would just have a lot of overuse of CGI. It feels though there does seem like some hint of some big like sci-fi thing I guess at the end, but it does feel relatively grounded. Like is that going to end up uh like I feel like a lot of Captain America: Brave New World had that vibe too. And honestly, when you watch the movie, uh a good half of that movie, it does feel like a relatively grounded, especially in terms of tone, movie that does feel very different from most Marvel stuff. It's just that yeah, it does uh, have almost like a second climax of then there's Red Hulk, which for a lot of people, hey yeah, you throw in a CG monster, well you can't call yourself a grounded uh, you know political thriller, right? To me, I thought it worked well enough. There's always like this difficulty with Marvel movies of like it's hard and superhero movies in general and a lot of action, a lot of these kinds of movies. How do you end this, you know, because you have such this clear idea of a structure and that okay, well this is the outline that you have to follow and you kind of feel like well for audiences to leave the theater satisfied, you kind of feel like well they need to have this big spectacle fight, right? They need to be, fighting the big CG monster or whatever it is. Um, and even these Marvel movies that like try to do something very different, or Marvel projects that try to do something very different, they generally end up falling back into that. Like I remember a lot of people also being upset that with like WandaVision, that it, even though you got like 8 episodes or whatever it was of very interesting, weird sitcom stuff and exploration of grief and all this stuff, and then it ends in okay to witches shooting, shooting energy at each other. Even if okay, the ultimate like how she actually wins and beats the other witch there is outthinking her, not necessarily just like overpowering her, right? I feel like Black Widow probably, and very interesting. This being, pretty much like this is basically a sequel to Black Widow, but throwing in, some other Marvel characters. I think probably partly because Black Widow wasn't necessarily a huge hit, so like having a Scarlett Johansson less, direct sequel to Black Widow starring Florence Pugh, I think wouldn't necessarily have been like a strong sell. But hey, throw in Bucky, throw in John Walker and Ghost and these characters that I think people kind of like, but don't necessarily couldn't headline their own thing, and don't haven't necessarily gotten as much opportunity to be a great thing. But I think they have a really strong cast here. But anyway, like in Black Widow, I feel like that is one of the only Marvel movies I can think of that did really, really try to change that formula and that structure. Because like the climax of Black Widow is not, her fighting some big, CG uh, creature. It's not even her fighting, the Taskmaster in that movie. It's her having a conversation about how she outthunk the bad guy in an office. uh it's though even then they still there's still the spectacle, right? Because it's the spectacle of them escaping this like collapsing. What was it? Wasn't like a it was like a space station, but it was just in the sky. But anyway, I love how like in these trailers, right? Really, they're highlighting here's the cinematographer, here's the production designer. How many Marvel movies do you see highlighting the production designer or the editor, the composer? And people have, also really pointed out they're really highlight, they're really trying to market this as an eight, essentially an A24 Marvel movie. Like this trailer has that kind of style, and I think pretty much all of the movies, or I think Beef might be a TV show, but basically all of those are A24 releases. Like they're really, and I think that's a good move, right? Because I think we are really at this point of you can't you can't make a movie like this. Like, you can't make a Marvel movie be successful just on the virtue of it's a Marvel movie and it has these big CGI sequences and people in costumes and fantastical powers and stuff. People in this movie actually don't have like much, in the realm of powers. Like the closest would be like Ghost, who can sort of, move through things, or like Red Guardian and uh, John Walker, who are basically just like like Captain America, right? They're slightly better than everyone at everything, right? They're a little faster and have more endurance, a little stronger and stuff like that, right? It's not like this crazy. Uh, it's not like you're throwing in freaking Scarlet Witch who can reshape reality. Um, like I think what you really do need to have like a successful Marvel movie, and we'll see how the next few projects do this, is you have to show how you are unique, right? You can't just be another Marvel movie. You have to be, so like Fantastic Four, I think they're trying to play up the period aspect. I think it does look like a fairly unique movie. It does look different from what we've usually seen from the MCU. This movie, I think, has a bit of that vibe, and maybe that'll help it. And me personally, it helps with my excitement because I have been trying to get more into like I have been getting more into like sort of like dramas and that sort of quote unquote like real cinema or like auteur cinema kind of thing. Um, as opposed to just watching like franchises and superhero movies. Though I do still love superhero movies, and I'll yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Who will keep people safe?
Oh, whoops. Bob. Oh, Bucky. Thunderbolts says officially the best marketing team out of any MCU movie. Marvel Studios had a crew of indie veterans. Yeah, they are really going with this. Yeah, I already mentioned that quote from hers. Absolute cinema. Yeah, so it's like, that almost feels like a challenge, like freaking Scorsese, right? This is the Marvel movie that is cinema. We'll see.